Hello. It is good to be with you again. So, today I got my octopus shirt on. I got a mug that I got from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. It's got jellyfish on it. So, when I was using this mug today, it reminded me of when I went on this big long road trip, right? All the way up to Seattle and back. Um, on the way back, I was about 4.5 hours away from home when my car just completely, like, it's bad. Like, basically, I needed a whole new engine, which is really cool. Really cool. Um, and it was like an interesting time because it would have been very. Luckily, I still had enough vacation time for it to get fixed and get home in time for what I needed to do in life. But obviously, that was not part of the plan. But it was this weird time where instead of being like super stressed or frustrated or freaked out, I actually had this like overwhelming sense of like peace and calm and just being okay. And when I think back to that time, I wonder like what was different about that time? Like why could I be so okay with that situation and then in my normal day-to-day life like tiny little things like set me over the edge, get me very frustrated, get me angry, whatever it is. What was the difference? And honestly, the difference was Thanksgiving, thankfulness. It was crazy how much in that like car broken down, stuck in a tiny little town called Buttonwillow. How much that situation kept giving me things to be thankful for. I met some amazing people who helped get my car back up and running again. I did it super quickly and did it for an extremely fair price. And they were strangers, but I was like, dang, there are good people in the world. And that was a reminder of it. And then I was stuck at this little weird hotel motel thing, but everyone was super friendly and they let me just continue to add on days depending on how long the car was going to take. And they're just like, yeah, just let us know in the morning. We'll give the longer you're here, we'll give you a better rate. And then I went to go get a sandwich on my first day being there, and I don't know why they just gave me a sandwich for free. Like things kept happening, and then that enabled me to be like, okay, I'm stuck here, but what was I gonna do with the rest of my vacation anyways? Like watch Netflix, watch movies. So I was just like, I'm just gonna chill, take it easy, read some books, watch some movie. Like the whole thing, there was so much to still be thankful for in the midst of a bad situation. There was so much to be thankful for in the midst of a bad situation. And I think I would say that like 99% of the time that's probably true. That even if you're in a horrific, a bad, awful situation, there are still things to be thankful for. And I know that doesn't make like the situation now good, right? It didn't, being thankful didn't fix my car, right? It didn't make it free. It didn't erase my car breaking. But what it did was my car breaking didn't ruin my days. And I think that's the critical piece. And it didn't ruin me. My car breaking didn't break me, right? Because that's like the double whammy, right? Like, do we allow situations to break us? So I want to read a little passage. This is from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 4 and 5. It says this: "For everything God created is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it is consecrated by the word of God and prayer." Now, this verse isn't specifically talking about like life circumstances. It's actually talking about there were religious people who were like, you're not allowed to eat that, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to be like that because that's bad. And the author is saying, actually, everything that God creates is good as long as what? As long as you receive it with thanksgiving. Everything that God creates is good as long as you receive it with thanksgiving. And so what I want to do is apply it to what I'm talking about, is that when you are in these dire circumstances, can you find the things that God has made? Can you find the gifts and receive them with thanksgiving? And I know this is hard, right? It's very hard. Just this past week, towards the end of week, like Thursday, Friday, I was just in this funk. I was in a bad mood. Every little thing was making me frustrated or angry. I was all out of sorts, not in a good place. And I couldn't break out of it. But thinking back on it now, if I had taken a second to pause, to stop and think, what am I thankful for right now? Right? That does multiple things that causes like shifts inside of you. The first thing it does is it causes you to stop for a second, right? Because I know when I am in that sort of mood, in that sort of way, it feels like everything's going wrong, so frustrating, this is so stupid, why can't something just work, right? When I'm in that way, I'm just steamrolling along, and I'm just like plowing through things. I'm not thinking, I'm not being mindful of what's around me. I'm just like, oh, let's just get through this, right? Because this sucks. But to stop causes you to like break out of that cycle. Just even doing that before you've even identified what you're thankful for, you've had to pause and breathe. And then the second shift that happens is you start looking at things differently. Instead of noticing and remembering and holding on to everything that isn't working, you start looking around for what is good. You start looking around for what is good. And so that is my encouragement for you, right? We talked about this last week at our gathering. We talked about what can we be thankful for, or what have you been thankful for in the midst of COVID, right? Because there is a lot, and it's easy to find the things that are frustrating. But it was so great hearing some of your answers of like what I'm thankful for, and things that like in the past you would have maybe even like scoffed at or hated, right? Because some of your answers were like, for being able to go back to school. Imagine that. Imagine at this time last year, like finals might be coming up, the stress of school, the whatever social drama is happening, and you're like, like, I know the typical response is like, I hate school. But to be like, I'm so thankful to be able to go back into school, right? And the reason that we can feel that and notice that was because of this bad situation that's happening in the world right now, right? So find the good. Find the good. And it's crazy how even the things that are bad still have these like hints, these shadows, they like reveal to us these truths that are good, right? So like when my car breaks down, like car broken down, faith in humanity restored. It was like, oh, that's cool to be able to notice that, right? Instead of spending the next 4.5 hours being frustrated at the slow people in front of me on the freeway. It's like, nope. Instead of that, what you're going to actually learn is how those people that were frustrating you, that are around you all the time, are actually super helpful and super kind and willing to go out of their way to help someone who needs it. So it's like these kind of things, right? To notice the good in the midst of hard things or bad things going on around you. Can you find the good and be thankful for it? And I think you'll start to notice those shifts inside of you. So the hardest thing I think is going to be is to even remember that when you're having one of those days, one of those weeks, to remember, I need to stop for a second and start looking around me for what I can be thankful for. So that is Thankful Part 2. We got one more week of this coming up next week, right before Thanksgiving. Actually, I'll record it right before Thanksgiving, but it's going to come out the Friday after Thanksgiving. But I think that's okay. So hopefully I'll see you at the gathering. And if I don't talk to you before then, I do hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving and that you remember all the things you have to be thankful